Productions on the track.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are in the Progressive War Room. I'm here with my man, Ben Feldman, who is a Congressional Progressive List Organizer who spends time researching candidates from different districts. So in my Twitter tweet about this interview, I described it as like a grassroots Our Revolution, right? The purpose for Our Revolution was to try to identify candidates at all levels of government and to promote them and to, try to give them air, and especially progressives, right? And I came across a Twitter account, and the Twitter account is named Leftist for Office. And I DM'd him because I was really impressed by a spreadsheet that he was compiling. And it actually turned out that it wasn't just him compiling this information, it was a group of people. And I asked to be a part of that group. And man, was I surprised to see such a vibrant group of people who are on a daily basis out there just looking at different candidates, compiling lists and putting them together. So this was Ben was somebody in that group that I want to interview and talk about progressive strategy and talk about his spreadsheet. So go ahead, Ben, say hi to the people.
Hi, what's up, everybody? What's up, Case? No, it's great to be here. I'm all excited to talk politics, elections, all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So with that said, let me just jump in and show a picture. So this is Leftist for Office. I want to give their Twitter account a shout out, Leftist for Office. So check them out. And then he has a link here that also goes to, this is Leftist for Office spreadsheet, and it goes into details. But I also want to show love to Ben's spreadsheet. This is a spreadsheet that he has, and has a lot of details with the incumbents. It got Twitter accounts, and it has the candidate's name. It got the district, got their website. Oh man, it's just a lot of great information here. And so I want to ask you, Ben, let me ask you, what got you into politics?
I don't know. I've kind of been in politics for a while. My parents are fairly politically involved, so they've exposed me to politics for a while. I don't know. It's just been something I've naturally been interested in. But in terms of my political position, it's kind of interesting. I haven't always been as far to the left as I am. I was a little bit more of a liberal a few years ago. It was kind of at the start of the 2020 presidential primary season. I really started to watch the primary unfold, watch all the candidates and such, start to get into some of the independent news outlets, started to watch some of that and form some of my own opinions. And then that's where I really started. And because I've always been in kind of an election geek, I started naturally following these progressive primaries once the election started, not just on the presidential level, but really wanted to get in on the congressional level, because that's really, well, not just the congressional level, but congressional level, state level, local level. That's really where power is built.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I've just naturally been interested in that. And it's, I've been keeping that up starting over the 2020 election cycle mainly. And now the 2022 election cycle started, I've been keeping track of this, get an early head start trying to publicize this, make sure everyone has a good list. That's kind of my interest, kind of how I got started.
Awesome. So what made you create this list?
That's a great question. Well, I've actually been keeping a list of progressives for both last cycle and this cycle. I was going to publicize last cycle's list, but I got beat out to it by another another progressive Twitter account who had a pretty similar list, actually a more extensive list than mine, and had better graphics than mine. So I decided to hold out and just refer to that list.
Okay.
This list, this cycle, then there wasn't a list at that point. I had kind of been keeping my own list, and then someone asked a question, and I decided, oh, let me publicize my list, and then they were like, cool, can you make a spreadsheet of it? So I was like, okay. I kind of been thinking about doing it anyway, so I did it, and I decided to publicize it, and it got some attention. And then I got involved with some other organizers on Twitter. Started communicating about it, sharing ideas, sharing candidates, starting to vet candidates, and it's been going on from there. It's been going pretty well.
Nice, nice. So this list is a group of people, and we talked a little bit beforehand, but I want to mention what you said, which is that you don't endorse all these candidates, and this is kind of talk about that a little bit. How is a liberal, different version of these people? Go ahead.
Yeah. So my spreadsheet is not my own personal endorsements. Purpose of the spreadsheet is kind of to get a general sense of progressives running for office at the congressional and Senate and governor level. So it's a very liberal list. I'm not doing too much vetting on some of these candidates. So some of these candidates are great. I would go flat out and say I would endorse them. Some of them, especially some of the ones that are running for Republican seats, it's almost hard to judge them this early because we don't know how they're going to vote. Sometimes it's not their policy platform. They've got good positions, but sometimes they're not super clear on them. Sometimes they don't have all their positions laid out. So it's pretty hard to judge. So because of that, I'm just kind of doing a general overview of people I would consider at least somewhat progressive or leftist. Some of them are better than others.
So what's your process? So so for example, for me, the first thing I do when I see a candidate and I check them out is I go to the website, see if they have an issues page, because surprising, some people might be surprised by this, but sometimes people have their website with no issue page, giving no opinion on where they stand on certain things, and that's just a pet peeve of mine. But if they do have an issues page, I usually go straight to their healthcare plan, and I look for Medicare for all or single payer, and that's my personal litmus test. If you don't have Medicare for all, then to me, you're not my type of progressive. Everyone claims to be a progressive, especially man, I can't think of the guy's name right now that endorsed Biden in South Carolina. Well, I can't think his name.
Clyburn.
Clyburn, yes. He had a case that QB clip, a couple of them actually, where he says, yeah, I'm a progressive. And it's like, oh my God. But what's your process, Ben? What's your process,
So
Ben?
I guess my process is very similar to yours. First thing I do, check out their website. Go to the healthcare page. Let's check for Medicare for all. If they got Medicare for all, good. Point in their favor. And then I check the environment page, see if I can find Green New Deal anywhere. That's the other big progressive policy. If they got Green New Deal and Medicare for all, okay, maybe they're good enough for the spreadsheet. Then I throw them on usually. If they don't, then I try to find their Twitter page, see if they've mentioned either of those things or some other progressive policy. See if I can get a good sense of whether they're progressive or not. And then if they are, then I'll put them on. If they're not from their Twitter page, then I like to message with them directly and then check, okay, are you for Medicare for all? They respond, yes. I'm just phrasing it a little differently to match the district. Okay, that's fair. I'm okay with a bit more of a moderate messaging depending on the district. But I guess if they use weasel words, then okay, maybe they don't put them on.
Nah, I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
Put them on and try to.
No, Ben, let me just jump in
try
here.
To add some nuance to it potentially.
I'm totally joking because unfortunately, I see a lot of a culture on the left where they just look for anything to cancel people, and to me, it takes a lot for me personally. Case study QB. It takes a lot for me to cancel you in the sense of your activism and the totality of what you're doing, your movement and everything. So what you're saying, if somebody's saying, one thing that I've realized, every district is different, and you have to kind of see represent the people in your particular district. I would love in a fantasy world that everybody would have the same message, everybody would be progressive, everybody will run as a progressive. But unfortunately there are different districts. So there like you just said, there might be a candidate that they're saying, like, to me, Medicare for all is my litmus test, and it makes the most, it's the most common sense. Or one, I'm actually gone a little bit more radical or more to the left recently because I've heard one of the founders of Justice Democrat, can't think of his name right now.
Wally Shaheed, is that the guy?
Not Wally, not Wally. Man,
I think
Corey Trent, I think his name is.
Corbin Trent. Yeah.
Corbin Trent. There we go. He was on the Bad Faith podcast and he talked about VA for all. He was like, man, I wish we would have started at VA for all, which is more like a national health system, like what England has. And that's more to the left of even Medicare for all. And I'm like, you know what? I'm for that. But, you know, in the meantime, my compromise is Medicare for all. And I think that anybody, even if you're in a conservative district, right? I think you can sell Medicare for all as a conservative plan. You save a lot of money, right? So I would be there's room for nuance. That's all I want to say, Ben. There's room for nuance, and
absolutely.
And somebody who's saying, hey, I want to sell Medicare for all in a different way, or my healthcare, it'll be a single payer system, but I don't want to call it Medicare for all. You know, I still have the Bernie side eye on you. I'm still going to look at you funny, you know, but I want to give people breathing space.
Give people a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. So I guess if they use the word Medicare for all just like once and then maybe afterwards say, like, try to explain it in a kind of almost more of a modern tone, say, oh, it saves money, which it does. It saves average people money. It saves the system money. It saves the system potentially $460 billion a year. That was the last study. So that's a great argument for it. You could also describe it as a tax cut. I think that's another great argument I've heard people use. So if you frame it that way, but you can still keep the words Medicare for all or single payer, something that lets us know you're still on our page, but you can explain it better to constituents. That's ideal for some of those districts. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But yeah, it is. I'm not going to go out and cancel someone right away. I'm going to give them a chance. I'm especially going to try to communicate with them. Try to be like, are you on our page? And are you using the, like, are you trying to tailor your language to your district? That's kind of how I would judge them.
Yeah. You have people like Colin Allred, who he was a Justice Democrat and he endorsed Medicare for all at first, and then as soon as he got elected, I forgot if it was after he won his primary or if it's when he won the whole thing, the general, that he just dropped Medicare for all, and then of course he went on to endorse Julian Castro, who he worked for, because he worked for Obama or the Obama administration. But then after Julian Castro dropped out, he endorsed Biden, and that's also shows me your progressive bona fides right there, you know.
Exactly.
You know, so, but yeah, so my question for you is, on this list, so who would be the worst case scenario that you would say, they don't have this, and this, but I'm going to add them to the list because at least, like, would you say at least they're the most, in this particular race, out of the 4 or 5 or 3 people running, that person is the most progressive?
Yeah, I have an exact race for that. And I know you covered this candidate too on one of your previous shows, but for the Pennsylvania Senate race, actually, if you might be scrolling down, I've got a few candidates on there for there. I got John Fetterman, who I think is probably the best candidate we have right now and the best candidate we have.
I agree.
With the best chance to win. He's got his issues. He's not great on environmental issues. He's talked about. I'm trying to remember. He said he's not necessarily for getting rid of fracking, which sounds great, doesn't sound great. I do think he could potentially be swayed. I hope he can, but that's my big issue with him. Mm-hmm. Then the candidate you have below, Malcolm Kenyatta, he's an interesting case. He has a better environmental record than John Fetterman, but he's a Biden endorser, and he's been very vocal about bashing leftists and Bernie supporters. So I'm very skeptical of him, and I really almost didn't want to put him on the list. But
Mhm.
I don't know what made me do that. I think it was I don't know. I think it was some of his endorsements and some of his policies. I was like, okay, maybe okay enough, but and he'll be better than some other candidates there are some other candidates that are to the right of him that are going to run,
Yeah.
and he might be better than some of them. So I don't know. It's that race is just shaky to me. I really don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about that real quick. So that person, I showed a video on my show, Political Junkies, every Monday, and shout out to Holly Horn in the chat. Much love to you. And the that person was asked on MSNBC. I put a clip up on my Twitter account, and if they embrace the word progressive or being called a progressive, and he said, "Oh, my mother or my grandmother or my aunt said, told me." Don't call me late for dinner. It was some weird thing that he
Yeah,
answered back. And I was like, that just turned me off because the other person, Richie Torres, he said he was a
yeah. He's
progressive.
another one that I actually do have on my list that I've been tempted to get rid of.
Yeah, yeah. He's another person that he ran as a progressive, but then when they ask him, hey, are you looking forward to joining the squad? Unlike somebody like a Jamal Bowman who's like, yeah, I can't wait to join the squad. He was like, oh no, I don't want to join the squad. So like, and there's a segment of the left that has an issue, and they call them the fraud squad and all this stuff. But to me, the squad represents an idea of what we
Right.
want our progressives to be, like this group of people who are going to force the vote, who are going to use almost like be the left version of the Tea Party. And even though I know a lot of people have issues with them not doing that so far, but they embody that idea. And for Richie Torres to say no, I don't even want to join them, or for even this person at Kenyatta that you're talking about to say I'm not a progressive, it just throws up the red flag for me, Ben.
Yeah, those are the two that I'm most tempted to take off the list. I've been deliberating that. I don't know. It depends on how those races shake up. If Richie Torres gets a primary challenger that's better than him, which I really hope he does,
Mm-hmm.
then I might take him off the list. Same for Kenyatta if there's some better candidates. If Fetterman turns out to be a decent candidate who's better on environmental issues, then I'll take Kenyatta off the list. It just depends.
Yeah, yeah. So Ezra Wilson in the chat, he said, your last conversation reminds me of Carrie Eastman, who ran in NE02 as a Justice Democrat in a red district that supported Medicare for all and had a lot of talking points geared towards conservatives. Now, Ezra, I actually went back and looked at Carrie Eastman's website, and the first time she ran, she had Medicare for all on her issues page, and then the second time she ran, it did not. So that's another example of someone who kind of dropped Medicare for all, or at least wasn't vocal about it. I would love to hear her explanation for it, but
Oh, but before you
go
continue,
ahead,
I
Ben.
think Ezra Wilson is leftist for office, by the way.
Oh, really?
I believe
Oh,
so,
cool,
yeah.
Ezra. If that's you, man, shout yourself out. We giving you love in the on this clip on our video on this interview, and I wanted to show your channel. Here you go. This is leftist for office, and he also has a spreadsheet. So just want to show some love. But yeah, go ahead, Ben. I don't know if you had anything else to say in regards to this.
In regards to Cara Eastman, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure about her. I think she had a fairly decent platform. I think I actually saw her go on the Humanist Report. She had a decent interview there.
Mm.
She explained that I think she was still for her positions, but she was
Okay.
moderating.
Okay.
Although I did think she got D-triple-C money this time, and she did moderate her position, and
Mm.
she actually did worse this time. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
So
100% sure on her. I think she still would have been fairly decent. She would have been someone on my list. She would have been fairly decent, especially for that district.
okay. Yeah, Ezra. That is leftist for office, and definitely giving you a shout out. It says they and them is the pronouns, and so at Ezra also said Brandine is a really progressive candidate for Pennsylvania U.S. Senate who isn't wishy-washy like Fetterman. Now, I got to look that person up because I didn't even know. The only two people that I knew that was running for Senate in Pennsylvania was Fetterman and Kenyatta, the other person. So I
Exactly.
definitely
I
got
do have
to
him on. I do have
really.
Dean on the list, but
Okay, okay. I'm gonna try to look up
I
their
also
website.
mind that
Mm,
that Fetterman and Kenyatta are probably going to take up the oxygen, and maybe really the
yeah,
only two candidates that have a chance here.
yeah,
So that's
probably.
why I do want to keep. I mean, while I can promote the better candidates, also keep the other candidates in mind here who might be the better of the other, because there's going to be some more conservative candidates. Connor Lamb, congressman from
Yeah.
Blue Dog congressman from Western Pennsylvania, is thinking about getting in. He would be
Really?
worse than any of the candidates we have
Oh
right
my
now.
gosh, you're right. You're very right about that. I'm surprised. You know what, Fetterman? I'm surprised he's not scaring other people. And this is the website for Dean, who's also running for Pennsylvania. Maybe I'll try to see if I can interview him. That would be interesting. But
Yeah, if you can get him on an interview, I'd love to see that.
yeah, so Fetterman, he raised a ton of money. He also endorsed. So what you think about this? He endorsed Bernie. I don't know if he did it twice. If it was 2016 and 2020, I can't remember. But I know at
Nope,
some point. Go
it's
ahead,
just
Ben.
just 2016.
Just 2016. Okay.
Yeah, 2016. He was actually a candidate for U.S. Senate in 2016. He was at that point he was an unapologetic Democratic socialist. Says he called himself that.
Oh, really?
Endorsed Bernie. 2020, not as much. He was at that point. At that point in 2016, he was just a mayor of a small city near Pittsburgh.
Okay.
2020, he's the lieutenant governor. He's
Yeah.
got a bigger platform at that point. He stayed neutral in the primary, didn't endorse anyone, and has been a little bit shyer in calling himself a democratic socialist. So I'm not sure if he's shifted himself to the right a bit, or if he's just trying to appeal to a different electorate. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
I think there are reasons to be skeptical of him. There's also an incident where he he pulled a gun on a jogger, like that was unarmed, and chased him away. Essentially, you got to read that story. It's
What?
kind of weird.
That is
But it
intriguing.
makes you skeptical of him, even though I think he may still be the best viable candidate in the race. It does make you skeptical of him a bit.
Now, did Bernie? I feel like I remember Bernie endorsed him for like the lieutenant governor
Yes, he
position.
did.
Okay. Okay. See. So that's interesting to me, and that gives me a little bit more confidence overall that at least we have a vote. I think he would be a solid vote for Medicare for all. Right now,
I think so. Yeah.
yeah. He won't be probably out there championing it like a Bernie Sanders. Like we're still waiting for another Bernie in the Senate. We
Yeah,
right.
it's
Go
gonna be.
ahead.
I don't know. I almost think actually. I don't know about like I'm from North Carolina. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Erica Smith's the candidate that I'm going for in North Carolina. I think
Mm.
she's a fairly solid option, and even though I don't think she'll be quite like Bernie, I do have high hopes for her. I
Mm.
do like a lot of stuff about her.
I know Ed Markey, he and the AOC, and they brought out the Green New Deal, so I got to give him credit for that. Other than that, for someone to be out there pushing, that literally took Medicare or for all on his back and pushed it into the consciousness of the public, I would love to see another senator do that for any other progressive initiative like ranked choice voting.
Oh, absolutely. Ranked choice voting, we need a whole lot
Yeah.
more coverage on, please.
Yeah. Like I would love to have that become into the national consciousness, but unfortunately, it's like have a lot of people who, Elizabeth Warren had a lot of plans, but she's definitely one of the people that I would say for me personally, I was back in like 2014, 2015. I was very excited for her candidacy because I was hoping that she would run them. This was before Bernie jumped in the race. But over time, she just kept disappointing me up to the point where she didn't endorse Bernie when she did
Yeah,
drop out.
she'd be better than some other people, but
Mm.
yeah, she does have her weak sides, unfortunately.
Yeah. So let's move the conversation over to an idea that I'm trying to get into the ether, and I want to talk about this idea with my fellow progressives. I want to get feedback, so that's what this conversation is going to be about. And it's called the People's Gauntlet, and it's basically, I call it an open source vetting framework, and I'm going to bring it up as soon as I find it. I'll bring it up. And the idea for the People's Gauntlet here is, so the peoplesgauntlet.com. So this page, the economy and well-being's page, is finished. And the idea is, if you're running for office, especially in the House and the Senate, this is not, I don't expect people who's running for local New Jersey Senate, state Senate to do this, but this is definitely for House Congressional and Senate Congressional. I want you to be able to talk on these topics and give us your opinion of it. So the hope and the vision that I would like is, and I'm communicating with other independent news leaders. That's what I like to call them. I don't like to call them pundits, but like,
Right.
you have the Nomiki Kants, you have the all the different people on the left, the Nico House and Cenk Uygur, the Jimmy Dore, and I'm purposely naming people on different sides of the left. But
Right.
when they interview people on their show, it would be cool if they said, "Hey, did you do the People's Gauntlet yet?" And then if they say, "Oh no, what is that?" Like, okay, go do the People's Gauntlet. We want to check it out, and then you could come on my show. So it's kind of almost,
Exactly. Yeah, I've
yeah,
seen similar things to this. I've seen where it's like a
okay,
pledge where you
yeah,
pledge. I mean, certain specific stuff like no fossil fuel money, stuff like that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
no corporate PAC money. But this sounds a lot more extensive.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like the
So
look of it.
and this is a way for you to give yourself publicity too. So they should come up with their own YouTube channel or their website, and then so for one clip it will be called the Economy and Wellbeing Gauntlet, and they'll spend like maybe it will be half an hour to an hour or more, and they'll talk about canceling student debt, fair trade, federal jobs guarantee, tax reform, et cetera, and they'll tell their feeling on this topic. And I just want them to tell the truth. Don't try to pander to me. Just tell me legitimately what your opinion of it is. And think of it as if, I don't need to have you take out your policy book, and read the policy book. Just act as if you're giving out your pamphlet, you're knocking on doors, and I'm a constituent that I say, hey, what's your opinion of expanding Social Security? Or what's your opinion on universal basic income? And that's the idea for this. And so there's other gauntlets as well. So this is the Justice Gauntlet. It talks about the third Reconstruction, LGBTQ, reparations, gun reform, so things that has to do with justice. Then here's the democracy. So this has ranked choice voting, digital democracy, decrease voting age to 16. That's an idea that I just do. I wonder what people think about that. And then you have the policy gauntlet, which has to do with abolish ICE, a war tax. A war tax is something I thought about, like, the way we have on our checks, the tax to take out for Social Security and Medicare. What if we had a section for war tax, and we could see every citizen when they get a paycheck, they could see how much their money is going towards war. That would build an appetite to try to decrease our war efforts around the world.
I will say that is the first I'm hearing of that idea, but I
Yeah,
really like that. That is
yeah.
fascinating.
Thank you
Good
so
job
much.
on that.
So I have to do the same thing that I did for this first page where I put a little bit more details. I have to do that for my other page. But this is still in beta mode, right? So, and I know
Right.
I have to really kind of ramp this up because we're about to get into the really heat. As you know, following this so closely, we're getting into the heat of the campaign season. Probably in about 6 months is when a lot of people are going to declare and going to be doing this thing. So I'm hoping to get this up and running. And then I talked to Jen. First of all, let me ask you what you think about the idea.
The idea of I really like this idea.
Okay.
I would love. I've seen sort of similar, like you sign on to some sort of platform, but yours looks really extensive, more extensive than most of the other ones I've seen. And I really love to see it gain traction, see if candidates will sign on to it and which candidates will sign on to it.
Yeah.
That'll help us judge them a bit better if we can get a sense of that.
That's the point. I did a video called the Hidden Case of the Fallen Justice Democrat, and that featured Colin Allred and about how he dropped Medicare for All, and eventually I don't know if he dropped out of Justice Democrat himself or if they dropped him because he dropped out of Medicare for All. But that idea made me think, so how is Justice Democrats vetting these people? And I'm not trying to blame them at all because they're a fairly new organization,
Right.
and I just want to know, like, how do people, even other organizations, you have DFA, so Democracy for America, and they endorse candidates as well. And
I will say about Justice Democrats, they kind of endorsed a whole lot of candidates in 2018. They
exactly,
probably
yeah,
outdid themselves a bit too much. They
yeah,
didn't really get a chance to vet themselves. So
exactly,
you got someone like Colin Allred, who I guess they did eventually abandon, who is not a leftist in any
yeah.
or progressive in any sense of the word.
So,
Actually, before you keep going with People's Gauntlet,
sure.
if you actually go back to my spreadsheet,
Okay.
I actually have I'm stealing this system from from another activist. But if you go over to one of the other tabs on the bottom,
Which one?
The primary targets list, the House primary targets list, we'll go with that.
Okay.
And you scroll over to the left or to the right a bit. I actually have my own, not my own, but a stolen system from how to judge incumbents and how left they are.
So you're saying to go this? You could see my screen?
No. So scroll them. Keep scrolling over to the different rows in that tab.
Gotcha.
There you go. And there's going to be a column if you keep going a little bit. Yeah, leftist score. There you go.
Okay.
So each incumbent that I have on this list, this is my top primary targets list. This is on the same spreadsheet I have. I'm kind of ranking my opinion of which incumbents we should focus on.
Gotcha. Definitely, I see Henry Collier. Yeah, he's definitely. Oh, Kurt Schreider. So Kurt Schreider, my guys, political junkies, every Monday night at 8. I always bring up this guy Kurt Schreider, and they're going to be. I wonder if they're watching right now, but they're definitely on my side if we want to get this guy Kurt Schreider out.
Yeah.
Now, Carol Maloney, what's your beef with her? I feel like I don't know if she endorsed Medicare for all or not, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
She is actually. She's fairly okay. So we'll go with the sense that in New York City, for an incumbent has to at least signal to Medicare for all. Otherwise, they're not. Yeah, they're going to be a big target because New York has has at this point the biggest hotbed for progressives and leftists. We got the biggest DSA party in the biggest DSA organization in the country in New York City.
Are you in New York, Ben?
No, I'm in North Carolina.
North Carolina. Okay, I was just curious. Okay, but go ahead.
New York's kind of the hotbed for leftist thought 100%. Right now. It's kind of the. But Carolyn Maloney, her big thing. I'm not just judging incumbents here on how bad they are. I'm also judging them on how vulnerable they are. And Carolyn Maloney almost lost her primary last year.
You're right.
So she's a top target. So because we know she's vulnerable, she can very well lose.
I thought you meant top target, meaning like they're a bad Democrat and you're trying to get them out.
It's a mix of both. I got both top. I'm kind of doing a mix of things to judge. Both terrible. Like there's someone here that are really terrible, and there's someone here that are okay but are vulnerable. So it's kind of a mix of both.
Like Richard Neal. So on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 is the leftist score, means like they're like a Bernie Sanders, where 0 is where they're.
Yeah. So actually, if you were to scroll over, if you were to keep scrolling over to the right, I've got a list of how they voted on particular issues. There's a whole list of stuff. Ben. So for each green score, it's gonna bring their. So if they have all green, then they will get 100%. If they have all red, they'll get a 0. Okay. That's how it's calculated.
Because I know this guy, that's really comprehensive, man. I got to really look into it. I didn't dig into this spreadsheet enough, but I see like Richard Neal, who, like knowing about Richard Neal, I don't even know exactly how he voted, but he's the guy that's single-handedly preventing, I believe, Medicare for all from being.
Exactly. He's a committee chair. That's why he's so high on the list. He's actually now the only committee chair who has not co-sponsored Medicare for all. Wow. Or sorry, no, the only committee chair where Medicare of a committee where Medicare for all would have to go through.
Mm-hmm. Okay, exactly.
It doesn't co-sponsor.
Exactly. So, man, this is awesome. I gotta definitely check this thing out some more. So, and anything else you want to point out on this spreadsheet?
Let's see. So I guess you can see like Carolyn Maloney has a fairly decent score, but she's vulnerable, but she's an easy target. Where Richard Neal probably has a higher score than he should because he's voted okay on some things, but his main problem is his committee chair position. That's why he's so high on the list. Yeah. That's why. So the thing is, we have a good system of how to judge incumbents because we have a voting record to base this off of. Mm-hmm. But it's hard. It's really hard to judge candidates before they're in office because all we have is their word of mouth and what they're going on and their policy platform. So I think that's where your system really comes into hand, where we can judge candidates before we even vote for them. Yeah, that's I think where your system could be very helpful.
Exactly. So hopefully for Henry Collier, we have Jessica Cisneros, who is a Justice Democrat. Hopefully she runs again. And then for Richard Neal, we have his name slips Morse. Remember him?
Alex Morse.
Alex Morse. There we go.
He's likely not going to run again since he actually moved out of district.
Really? Oh man, I'm sorry.
He actually quit his mayor job and he's a town manager for some town on the coast. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I think he could have run again, but I
Yeah.
think there's a decent chance we'll get another good candidate there.
Okay.
I really hope so.
But he built such. I think he built. The thing is, and I'm starting to. I want to ask certain people this question, like people, candidates who are running. I would love to know if they're going to run twice, because I'm starting to become of the opinion that if you're running as a grassroots candidate, you should commit to running twice, right? Because at least,
Absolutely. No,
yeah,
you should commit to keep running until you win.
yeah. Now, I don't know about that because everyone
Well,
has
yeah, I
their
mean,
own.
maybe if they don't work out after a while,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
then it's
yeah.
time to
Because you have
but definitely twice.
Shahid Buttar is running. I think he's running for a third time against Nancy Pelosi, and I'm not saying he shouldn't run, but it's going to be interesting to see if he
Yeah, I
gets
think
any
I mean
more.
I like all of his policy positions. My problem with him is he might be too scandal plagued to win at this point. We need someone really rock solid to take on
Mm.
Pelosi if we want to have even a tiny chance of taking her out.
Yeah, yeah. So that's where I'm like, maybe at least twice. So the first time is you want to build your infrastructure, you want to build your super volunteers, and you want to build your branding. That's the most important thing. And then the second time,
Yeah.
like a Cori Bush model, right? She ran the first time, and then she
Yep.
lost, but then she ran the second time, and then she won. And not everybody's going to win on that first time, like Jessica Cisneros. That's why I would have loved Alex Morris to run, but Jessica came very close. I know. I have Hector Osiguera out of New Jersey. He's been on the show a
Definitely.
couple times. Really like the guy, and he ran once already. I'm hoping that he runs again. So I think I would love. I would feel more secure if candidates would say that, "Hey, I'm going to do this twice, even if I lose the second time. The first time, I'm going to run again." What do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Another great candidate for someone else that's pretty high on the list. I think he's number five. Tom O'Halloran is an incumbent. He's a blue dog Democrat in Arizona.
Mm.
He actually used to be a Republican before he ran. And
Wow.
he has a 0% voting record. He's just voted wrong on absolutely everything. So he needs to go. But
Yeah.
last time we had Eva Putsova who ran. She actually got 41% of the vote last time, which is more than Cori Bush did in her first run.
Wow.
She really did really well, and I saw a tweet from her that says she's likely to run again.
Ooh,
So
nice, nice. That's going to be.
so she's going to be another one. There's some,
Yeah.
but yes, candidates really need to. They need to. I mean, they need to start early so they can build
Yeah.
that infrastructure.
Yeah. Yeah.
They need to, and then they need to be committed to run more than once. So because it's not. This is none of this is a short term project. This is all a long. You have to be in it for the long haul. Otherwise, you're
100%.
not going to get anything done.
And that's another reason why I came up with the People's Gauntlet. And I'm hoping that we could catch fire because we want to be able to weed out who's serious and who's not serious, and the people who even do it. Because some people are going to say, no, I don't need to do that. But how? Okay, how do you call yourself a grassroots candidate when you don't want to at least address the grassroots? You want our money, you want us to volunteer for you, but then you won't answer our questions or speak to the issues that we care about, which is what the People's Gauntlet, all these issues is what progressives care about. How can we trust you? So that's another reason for this. Now, let's go a little bit further into what I would in a fantasy world, right? And and
Right.
and I'm hoping that we'll see what happens when the website fully launches, and I'm going to be able to get certain people to do it because I already have relations with at least one person that I know. They didn't declare that they are running yet, but they said they would do the People's Gauntlet. And if I can get them on the website, on the People's Gauntlet, the website is going to change, and I'm thinking this is what I'm just daydreaming, right? It'll be cool if we can
Right.
get grassroots supporters, members to say to join the site, and maybe, and this is just me talking, maybe this stuff might change later, but maybe they'll join the site and they'll say, hey, I'll donate $2 a month, right? So now let's say we get 10,000 members to be members of the People's Gauntlet. That's $20,000 a month. I'm just throwing something out there, right? If they each
Right.
donate $2. Now if you do the People's Gauntlet, right, this is another level of a benefit of the People's Gauntlet. I'm thinking 2 months before the primary, you have districts. So, for example, in 2020, Donna Shalala over in Florida, she was like a moderate Hillary Clinton kind of
Oh my
Democrat.
God.
And then, yeah,
She's
you know who I'm
hilarious.
talking about. And then there are 3 or 4 other progressives, like real Medicare for all type of progressives, probably on different parts of the progressive spectrum, but they all divided and watered down the progressive vote and allowed Donna Shalala to get through with like 30% of the vote. And I know my guy from the people from the Political Junkies, Gabe, who's on the show, he is in that district, and he was so mad that she was able to
Yeah,
win.
now that's
Right?
just a theme overall. You see
Yeah.
all these leftists splitting this. Leftists are sort of progressives who are splitting the primary vote and allowing the most conservative candidate to win. Actually, the best example of this is in Massachusetts' fourth district. That was Joe Kennedy's old district.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah. Last time you saw, there's about 2 or 3 progressive candidates who
Yeah.
are splitting the vote, and they allowed Auchincloss, who's the conservative candidate, to win that district with only 22% of the vote. It was very close.
I remember
We really
specifically
had an opportunity there.
we covered that on my show, and I forgot the specific name, so I'm glad you remember that name. But I know exactly it was Joe Kennedy district, and I remember because he can't run again because he ran for Senate.
Right.
But yeah, that's a perfect example of another situation like that. So the people's gauntlet. So here's the idea, Ben. A month before the primary vote, or maybe 2 months. Maybe it depends on the district.
Probably need to be a little earlier, yeah.
So maybe let's say 2 months before the primary vote, we do something called we declare a people's champion, right? So let's say in the case of Florida, where they had Donna Shalala, they had those 4 people. We declare a people's champion, which will be one of the 4 progressives, and we're basically saying, hey, we want you to be our champion. Everyone else, now we can't force anybody to drop out, but we can signal to the grassroots like, hey, this is the person we're going with. I'm hoping that the people who endorse the People's Gauntlet, like all the left leaders, the Nico House, the Mika Kant's, the TYTs, all these people, again, I'm hoping that they can get behind this idea and we'd be like, okay, we're going to declare people's champion. And not only are we going to, this will be like our way of endorsing. So you know how in Gary Chambers' situation, people were disappointed that Our Revolution endorsed Karen Carter. You know, this is the people's way of endorsing candidates and saying, hey, this is the person we're going to get behind. And then I don't want any money from this website. So all the money from the members are going to go to candidates.
The chosen candidate.
Yeah, candidate. So if they get declared a people's a champion, they get, let's say, $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, depending on how many members we get to join the site, and how much money we could build up. We'll be able to give our people's champion a certain amount of money that hopefully that can help them. What do you think about that?
Oh God, I really love that idea. I haven't heard something quite like that, but that puts together a lot. It puts together a platform that they all sign on to. Puts together something where we get to all vet them. We get to all kind of see, okay, which one is going to represent us the best, and that has the best shot of winning them, and who best represents the district. And then we can all go, okay, we're going to endorse them, and we're going to use all of our resources, and we know most of the progressive votes will then coalesce behind that candidate. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, so good. So that's what I'm hoping that we can do with this site. And then even you gave me the idea before we came on the show of giving ratings. That's definitely, so the people who would be voting for the people's candidates or the members of the site, and then we'll give left leaders a vote, and then what else? Oh, we'll give ratings. So people who are members of the site, their benefit for giving $1 a month is they'll be able to rate candidates, and then over time you could see, oh, this candidate had 5,000 members voted on them and they got 3 out of 5 stars, or they got 5 out of 5 stars, something like that. That's what I'm thinking. So hopefully
it also might be interesting. Here's another idea, maybe.
Go ahead, Ben.
Where they can, where your policy platform is pretty extensive, where they can go and maybe comment on each one of the issues and say, am I completely for this? Yeah, no, I'll give it 100%. But if I'm like not quite for this, then you can, you can say that, and then we can grade them based on how they kind of respond to the policy platform. I think that would be interesting to do.
So I definitely, I don't know if you're saying that they would not do the video form of the People's Gauntlet, but they'll do like a full out form, like a.
Well, they could do a video form, but we could get their takes on each one of the issues separately. So then we know completely. So we can feel completely good about who to endorse, so because we can see their take on every one of the issues. I
Yeah.
think that might be
Well,
interesting.
my goal with the people's going, I definitely want them themselves. Like I don't want it to be because every other organization you fill out a form is it seems really black and white and there's not a lot of
Right.
personality in it, right? So I'm really my vision is definitely to have them come on camera and explain because there's
Yeah.
another purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we can do it on camera,
Yeah,
but have
yeah,
them
that
explain each one of the issues
yeah,
and explain
yeah. And then
everything
we
else.
could judge them. And then, yes, I agree with you. We should be able to, like, let's say they have a page. That's another idea. Let's say they can log into the peoplesgauntlet.com and it'll be like almost like a social media, where you have your own Facebook page and you log in there. Yeah, so maybe people can go to their page and then they could rate each of their responses for each of the people's gauntlet and the different subjects within the different gauntlets. So I agree with that 100%.
Yes, and then that needs to be what we use to judge to determine which candidate we're going to get behind.
But I also another benefit is because we're hearing these people speak and they articulate their stances, we're kind of getting gauging their charisma. We're kind of gauging their how they articulate their words, and because it's not only a thing to get a candidate in office that would vote on the issues that we want. We want candidates who's going to be able to articulate to moderates, to other, even Republicans if they can, to try to convince them to join their legislation. Now, I know I'm living in a fantasy world right now, right? A lot of people want to say that will never happen, but okay, let's put Republicans aside for now. But at least maybe moderates, they can try to say, hey, I want you to join whatever legislation they have, whether it's, for example, AOC recently joined up with Chuck Schumer to pay $9,000 to pay for funerals of people who died from COVID, right? I think that's a good thing. That was a good thing that she got accomplished. And
Definitely.
we want leaders to be able to go in there and be able to attract other people to their site. So that's another, benefit of the site.
Definitely.
All right, awesome, man. All right, we talked about the People's Gauntlet and any feedback that anybody have out there, definitely my email is kstudyqb@gmail.com. You can definitely hit me up there. Ben, thank you so much for your feedback.
Glad to be on. Glad to. And actually, I guess before we go,
sure.
I guess a quick another thing we can do, or another thing that might happen. I've been throwing this idea out. I know you might have seen some of this, but it looks like we might be planning some town halls over the summer. We can get some of these candidates together, kind of get them to play off of each other.
Okay.
And kind of get them to form slates. I think that's and get people to ask questions and kind of judge them.
Tell me more about this.
I think that's something to look forward to over the summer. We'll have more details about that coming out. But,
so what's the vision for this? So are they going to be in the same district that they're going to be like going up against each other, or what's the vision?
Not necessarily. We're going to kind of do it by region. Like there's a bunch of candidates that are running in Maryland. We're going to get. But like we get all of them together and have them kind of work together and do a town hall together and get them to campaign almost as one slate, almost we're calling it.
Okay, that's interesting. That could add some firepower to, instead of one person running on their own completely, maybe they can kind of collaborate and
absolutely we need to work together. That's kind of how we. That's if we run as a slate, like for instance, the DSA slate in New York City, they won almost 100% of their races for the state legislature in 2020. That's the kind of firepower that we need. We need everyone to campaign together, have kind of one, not necessarily 100% of the same platform, but have a pretty cohesive slate of okay, if I'm voting for this person, you know exactly what you're getting. You're getting this, and this from all these people. That's kind of what we're going for here.
Yeah, definitely let me know when you're doing that. I would love to retweet that and give it some love. All right, so as we end the show, I want to give the chat room some love. So Holly Horn, thanks for coming out. Ezra Wilson left this for office. Thank you so much. Jesus, thank you for coming out. Paul Patrick, thank you for coming out. And I'll just read, he said, this was a great idea. Ezra said, when she ran against Gillibrand in the Senate, she's very conservative in some aspects, said the N-word. And when she ran against Gillibrand in the Senate race, I forget who we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay, no worries. But thank you so much for coming out on the show. Ben, thank you so much for your time and for your activism And for working, this stuff it must be really, really hard I know you're in college and you're in school and you're doing this at the same time, but your work is not in vain, man. I got to tell you that it got me excited about my idea, and I'm going to definitely check out the spreadsheet. Is that spreadsheet public? Do you want me to put it in the chat or anything?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
If you want to throw the link in the chat, that would work.
Okay. Cool, cool. I'm
Yeah,
about to
no,
throw
and definitely everyone in the audience, check it out. If you haven't checked it out already, spread it around places. We want to get this going. We want to get people to see this. And it's really for you to research all these candidates on your own and kind of judge. It's kind of like almost a database where you can go and see all these candidates that are running. Definitely spread this around.
Okay, Ezra said that they were talking about Carol Maloney when he's talking about this. So I didn't know she said the N word and stuff like that. I did not know that.
Yeah,
about her.
she's fairly conservative.
Very
I think
conservative.
She co-sponsors Medicare for All, but everyone in New York City co-sponsors Medicare for All, so we can't really judge that. Unfortunately,
can't judge that. That's very interesting. And I didn't know she ran against Gillibrand also. That's interesting. Okay, thank you so much for participating in the chat, Ezra, and everybody else, Paul Patrick, Jesus, everybody, Holly Horn. Much love to everybody. Ben, thanks again. And
yeah, great to be on.
All right, everyone. Have a great one. And as we continue to talk political strategy, I can't do this without you. This is the corner where we come together and strategize together, try to make a better world. Have a great